4 Scary True Home Alone Stories. Story number 1, The Disappearing Toys. 10-year-old Lily loved spending weekends alone at her grandparents' old Victorian house. It was a sprawling labyrinth of rooms, each holding a dusty treasure trove of forgotten trinkets. This particular weekend, she discovered a box overflowing with antique marionette puppets, their painted faces a grotesque mix of wonder and despair. Lily spent hours crafting stories, their wooden limbs dancing across a makeshift stage. Exhausted, she left them propped up on a shelf and drifted off to sleep. A blood-curdling shriek tore her from sleep. Lily stumbled out of bed, heart hammering against her ribs. The source of the sound, the puppet box. Its lid lay ajar, the puppets scattered across the floor. But that wasn't all. Each puppet's strings, once limp, were now taut, as if an unseen hand held them aloft. A cold dread filled the room. Lily hesitantly reached for a puppet, a delicate ballerina with porcelain skin. As her fingers brushed the wood, the puppet twitched, its painted eyes locking with hers for a fleeting moment. Lily recoiled, a whimper escaping her lips. Every creak of the old house now sounded amplified, her mind conjuring images of the puppets pirouetting with a life of their own. Sleep was impossible. The next morning, the puppets lay back in the box, strings slack, their expressions eerily blank. Yet, Lily couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She left the house shortly after, the memory of the animated puppets a chilling secret she carried with her. Story number 2, The Haunted Melody. Rain lashed against the windows, a melancholic rhythm that mirrored 18-year-old Alex's mood. Stuck home alone for the night, he sought solace in music, cranking up the old gramophone his grandfather had left him. As the needle settled onto the worn record, a hauntingly beautiful melody filled the room. It was unlike anything Alex had ever heard, filled with a melancholic longing that tugged at his heartstrings. Yet, there was something unsettling about it, a discordant note that sent shivers down his spine. Halfway through the song, the power flickered, plunging the room into darkness. The music, however, continued, emanating from the gramophone itself, a faint, ethereal glow pulsing around its brass horn. Panic clawed at Alex's throat. He fumbled for his phone, its weak flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The record player remained still, the needle impossibly hovering a fraction above the record. Yet, the music continued, its mournful melody swirling around him. The hairs on Alex's arm stood on end. He scrambled to turn off the gramophone, but the knob wouldn't budge. Just as abruptly as it began, the music stopped. Silence descended, heavy and oppressive. The power flickered back on, casting a sterile light on the room. The gramophone seemed ordinary once more. But the chilling melody lingered in Alex's mind, a constant reminder of the night the music played itself. Story number 3, The Whispering Walls. Sarah, a budding writer, relished the solitude of her cabin nestled deep in the woods. The rhythmic tapping of rain on the roof provided the perfect white noise as she hunched over her laptop, crafting a suspenseful story. As dusk settled, the temperature dropped, and an unsettling silence descended upon the cabin. Then, she heard it, a faint whisper coming from the wall behind her. It was a single word, barely audible, yet dripping with malice. Startled, Sarah swiveled in her chair, her gaze scanning the bare wooden walls. Nothing. She convinced herself it was just the wind playing tricks, the product of an overactive imagination. But the whispers continued, sporadic at first, then growing in frequency and intensity. They seemed to emanate from all corners of the room, weaving a chilling narrative of despair and loneliness. Panic gnawed at Sarah. Grabbing her phone, she tried calling for help, but there was no signal. The whispers intensified, forming fractured sentences, pleading for her to leave. Shivering with fear, Sarah huddled in a corner, the words echoing in her mind. As dawn approached, the whispers faded, leaving behind an unsettling silence. Sarah bolted from the cabin, the memory of the voices clinging to her like a shroud. She never returned, the chilling whispers a stark reminder of the time the walls spoke to her. Years passed, but the memory of the cabin whispers haunted Sarah. Now a successful author, she found herself drawn back to the woods, a morbid curiosity gnawing at her. The cabin stood unchanged, a solitary sentinel amidst the towering pines. With a deep breath, she pushed open the creaking door, a wave of stale air greeting her. The silence was deafening. Tentatively, she called out, "Hello?" Only the echo answered. Sarah ventured deeper, her hand tracing the rough wood of the walls. A cold spot sent a shiver down her spine. As she pressed her ear against it, a single word, clear as day, materialized in the air: "Help." Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. This wasn't her imagination. The whispers were back, but this time, they seemed desperate, filled with a sense of urgency. Panic threatened to consume her, but a flicker of determination ignited within. She grabbed a pen and notebook, scribbling down the fragmented messages that materialized from the walls. They spoke of a hidden room, a dark secret buried beneath the floorboards. With newfound resolve, Sarah searched the cabin, her eyes scanning every inch of the dusty floor. Finally, a loose floorboard caught her attention. Prying it open, she discovered a hidden compartment, a metal box nestled within. Taking a deep breath, Sarah pried open the box. Inside, a faded photograph stared back at her, a young couple, their faces etched with worry. A name scrawled on the back, Emily and John Evans, 1947. Suddenly, the whispers intensified, a torrent of words flooding the room. They belonged to Emily, trapped within the walls after her husband's murder. John, consumed by grief, had sealed her away, his guilt turning into madness. Sarah understood. With shaking hands, she contacted the local authorities, the photograph serving as a key to the long-buried secret. The investigation unearthed a skeleton beneath the floorboards, John's guilt a heavy truth. Emily's spirit, finally at peace, faded from the cabin walls. Though the experience left her deeply shaken, Sarah found solace in giving Emily a voice, a story finally told. The whispers may have been terrifying, but they ultimately led to closure, a testament to the power of even the faintest cry for help. Story number 4, The Sentient Refrigerator. The old refrigerator in the corner hummed ominously, a constant presence in the otherwise silent kitchen. 15-year-old Ben, home alone for the evening, raided the fridge for a post-dinner snack. As he reached for the leftover pizza, a low groan emanated from the depths of the appliance. Ben froze, his hand hovering in midair. Surely, he must have imagined it. He grabbed the pizza, the groan echoing once more, this time accompanied by a soft rattling sound. Sweat beaded on Ben's forehead. This was ridiculous. He slammed the fridge door shut, the sound jarring in the tense silence. For the rest of the evening, Ben couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every creak of the cooling system sent shivers down his spine. He convinced himself it was just the old fridge on its last legs. But then, as he sat glued to the TV, a disembodied voice, muffled but undeniably clear, spoke from the kitchen. "Are you hungry?" Ben's blood ran cold. He scrambled to his feet, heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. Slowly, he crept towards the kitchen, the voice repeating its chilling question, growing louder with each iteration. Terror seized Ben as he reached the doorway. The fridge light flickered erratically, casting long, distorted shadows across the room. Then, with a deafening groan, the fridge door creaked open a sliver. Ben didn't wait to see more. He bolted out of the house, the disembodied voice echoing after him, a haunting plea, "Let me out." He spent the night huddled at a friend's house, the image of the open fridge door seared into his memory. The next morning, his parents dismissed his story, attributing it to a vivid nightmare. But Ben knew better. The fridge remained in the kitchen, its hum now a constant reminder of the night it spoke, a chilling testament to the potential for even the most mundane appliances to harbor a darkness within. The unsettling encounter with the sentient fridge cast a long shadow over Ben. He became withdrawn, jumpy at any unexplained sound. His parents, concerned about his sudden change, finally pressed him for details. Hesitantly, Ben recounted the terrifying events, the disembodied voice, the creaking door. To his surprise, his father, a mechanic with a knack for tinkering, listened intently. The next day, he returned home with a toolbox and a determined glint in his eye. Together, they ventured into the kitchen. The fridge loomed ominously, its hum a low, menacing drone. Ben's father, undeterred, began a meticulous inspection. He replaced faulty wires, tightened loose screws, and examined the cooling mechanism. Hours passed, the tension thick in the air. Finally, his father straightened up, a relieved sigh escaping his lips. "It seems like a short circuit was causing electrical interference," he explained, "probably messing with the fridge's compressor and creating those weird sounds." Ben wasn't entirely convinced, but the logical explanation offered a sliver of comfort. His father switched the fridge back on. This time, the hum sounded normal, almost friendly. Ben cautiously approached, peering inside. The light glowed steadily, revealing neatly stacked shelves of food. He reached for a carton of milk, half expecting another voice, another plea. But there was nothing. Relief washed over him, tinged with a flicker of doubt. Was it truly just a malfunction, Or had something more sinister lurked within the fridge? The following weeks were uneventful. The fridge hummed contentedly, its door firmly shut. Yet, late one night, as Ben lay awake, a faint, familiar groan drifted from the kitchen. He bolted upright, heart hammering against his ribs. He strained to listen, but the sound wasn't repeated. Sleep, once again, became a distant dream. The experience left Ben forever wary of seemingly ordinary appliances, a constant reminder of the night the fridge spoke, a chilling whisper in the back of his mind.